Hello guys, it's Mike again in the garage, and this is another installment of What Am I Reading? And this is what I'm reading right now. I have read it before, but I recently picked up a copy. I know this story has been reprinted many times. It's been added to many collections. This is the X-Men Days of Future Past. This is the Marvel's Finest edition. And I'm just going to flip this open to see if I can find the year that this was printed. Because this is a reprint, but it's not the most recent version by any means. You can definitely tell because they haven't modernized the colors and shading in it. Apologize for getting off camera there. X-Men Days of Future Past contains material originally published in magazine form as Uncanny X-Men, Volume 1, numbers 141 and 142. Published by Marvel Comics. So that's from 1980 was it was originally printed. But okay, there we go. 1980 and 2000. So this reprints from 2000. And if you're not familiar with Days of Future Past, it's a storyline where you get a peek into the future where most of the mutants have been killed, the rest of them are in hiding because Sentinels have been unleashed on the world to eliminate the mutant menace. And so there's the famous cover that a lot of people know with the X-Men roster on a poster listed slain or apprehended, and Wolverine, old Wolverine with gray hair. And as you can see, the original coloring from the 80s, from the 1980s, you can see that dot pattern. Now, because I am trained to professionally color comic books, I can actually read these colors as if they're another language, and I can tell you what the formula is to make them in Photoshop or software programs. If you'd like to see a rundown of how you can break down vintage comic colors as a visual language and actually know their color formula to recreate them digitally by looking at them, let me know. Tell me in the comments. Anyway, so we've got some great work. John Byrne again, you guys know I'm a fan of him. I really like his line work. I like the way he draws figures. I find it somehow a blend of realism and cartooning in the best possible way. I feel like he does really believable, realistic body figures, but knows how to manipulate expressions in a way that might be a bit beyond realism, but that helps tell the story. His expressions, and the way he does shading and lighting it. I'm not saying he's the greatest ever. I'm just saying I really enjoy the visual. I find his work visually appealing. Anyway, we're starting in a future this is New York, and it sucks. It's all falling apart. It's a wasteland. And this is a grown-up Kitty Pryde or Shadowcat. And of course, we've got some roving gangs in New York. A very easy thing to predict from New York of the 80s when people were writing this. They're like, yeah, there'll still be gangs. There was gangs then. New York's come a long way. Hopefully it doesn't dive back down. But the storyline has Shadowcat from the future. And if you've seen the movie, there's definitely some parallels. They obviously borrowed heavily from the movie that has its namesake, but the characters are a little bit different. Shadowcat goes back in time to warn the X-Men to try and prevent this horrible future that they're living in. And so there's a lot of political drama relating to laws about mutant registration, government enforcers that are actually evil mutants, and trying to prevent the events that would lead to people with mutant powers being restricted and legislated into government control. And it's a really good story. The future parts of the storyline are really dark and gritty, and you see aged, elderly versions of the characters, which is, again, something I love about Byrne's work. He really likes to delve into, longer lifespans of characters and having them age and, seeing how that would change them and make them different. And you get a lot of that. You see some popular characters die in the future, and it really also includes nods to other characters in the Marvel Universe. There's mentions to the Fantastic Four and the Avengers and everything in here. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, you can find reasonably priced copies on eBay. There's a plethora of reprints. This is one of the most popular X-Men storylines, even though it only was for 2 comics. It's a really good classic one. A lot of the movie storylines were inspired by or built off of this one, especially obviously the one called Days of Future Past. And again, Chris Claremont and John Byrne, some of my, Chris Claremont is a really good writer. I really enjoy his work, especially his X-Men work in the 80s. And John Byrne, again, one of my favorite comic artists, so obviously that's why I bought this. If you like their work, or if you like the idea of reading a dystopian future X-Men story with time travel, this is one that you might want to check out. And that's what I'm reading right now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to sound off in the comments, and I hope you guys have a great day and enjoy reading your comics.